My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old. My father, Robert Carter, wasn't just my dad. He was my best friend. After my mother passed away when I was 12, he raised my brother, Daniel, and me alone. He worked 2 jobs. Never missed a birthday. Never forgot a promise. Everything he built for his family. Or so I believed. Daniel was 4 years older than me. As children, we were close, but everything changed after college. Daniel cared about one thing: money. He always believed Dad loved me more. He often said, "One day, I'll make sure everything belongs to me." Dad would simply laugh. Children shouldn't compete over what belongs to a family. I wish Daniel had listened. 3 days after Dad's funeral, Daniel called me. We're meeting at the courthouse. Why? The lawyer found Dad's final will. I felt sick. Everything was happening too fast. Dad had barely been buried, yet Daniel already sounded excited. When I arrived, he was standing outside the courtroom in an expensive suit, smiling. He barely looked sad. Instead, he walked toward me and whispered, "I hope you're ready." I frowned. For what? He leaned closer. To find out Dad left you absolutely nothing. My heart skipped. What are you talking about? He pulled out a copy of the will. There. It says the house, the business, the investments, the cars, everything goes to me. I stared at the document. It looked real. Dad's signature. Witnesses. Official stamps. My hands started shaking. This can't be right. Daniel smiled. It is. I won. The words hurt more than I expected. Not because of the money, but because they didn't sound like my father. Dad always believed in fairness. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Just then, our father's longtime attorney, Mr. Harrison, entered the courtroom. He looked unusually nervous. When our eyes met, he quietly said, "Emily, before today's hearing, I need to ask you one question. Did your father ever tell you that he had a twin brother?" I froze. My father had what? Mr. Harrison nodded slowly. And if what I'm thinking is true, today's hearing isn't going to end the way anyone expects. The courtroom doors slowly opened. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. A tall man wearing a dark gray suit walked inside. His hair, his eyes, even the way he walked, looked exactly like my father. My brother Daniel's face turned white. No, that's impossible. The judge looked confused. "Sir, identify yourself." The man calmly replied, "My name is David Carter. I'm Robert Carter's identical twin brother." The courtroom erupted with whispers. I couldn't breathe. "Twin brother?" I whispered. "Dad never told me." David looked at me with gentle eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily. Your father wanted to protect all of you." Daniel laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous." My father never had a twin. David slowly reached into his jacket. He handed the judge his passport, birth certificate, military records, and old family photographs. Every document matched. The judge examined everything carefully. It appears Mr. David Carter is exactly who he claims to be. Daniel's confidence began to disappear. Our father's attorney, Mr. Harrison, stood up. "Your Honor, before Robert passed away, he instructed me that if anyone attempted to use a fraudulent will, I was to contact David immediately." Daniel shouted. "Fraudulent? What are you talking about?" Mr. Harrison placed another sealed envelope on the evidence table. "This envelope has remained sealed for 15 years. The instructions were very clear. Only open if my children ever fight over my estate." The judge nodded. "Open it." The courtroom became silent. Mr. Harrison carefully broke the wax seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. Everyone recognized my father's handwriting instantly. Mr. Harrison began reading aloud. "If you're hearing this letter, it means my greatest fear has come true. I always believed my children would stand together, not tear each other apart over money." Daniel lowered his head. The room remained completely silent. Then Mr. Harrison continued. If anyone presents a will that gives everything to one child, know immediately, it is fake. The courtroom gasped. Daniel's eyes widened. What? Mr. Harrison looked directly at him. Robert never wrote a will leaving everything to one person. He created a family trust. Daniel suddenly stood. That's a lie. Mr. Harrison calmly removed another folder. This is the original trust agreement. It was signed 12 years ago. It divides every asset equally. Daniel's hands started shaking. No, this can't be happening. Then David quietly spoke. There's something else. Everyone looked at him. The night before Robert died, he called me. He said, if Daniel ever tries to steal from Emily, tell her. I've already protected her. My heart stopped. What do you mean? David smiled gently. Your father left something that nobody knows about. Even Mr. Harrison looked surprised. What are you talking about? David reached into his briefcase. He slowly placed a small wooden box on the judge's desk. It had my father's initials carved into the lid. Inside was one small key and a note that read, "This key unlocks the truth." The judge looked up. Mr. Carter, what exactly does this key open? David took a deep breath. It opens a private safety deposit box that hasn't been touched in over 10 years. Daniel's face lost all color, because for the first time, he realized his plan wasn't falling apart. It had already failed. The courtroom adjourned for 1 hour. No one left. No one spoke. Everyone wanted to know what was inside that safety deposit box. Daniel sat with his arms crossed. But I could see it. The confidence he'd carried all morning was gone. An hour later, the judge, both attorneys, David, Daniel, and I arrived at First National Bank. The bank manager greeted us. Mr. Robert Carter rented this box 22 years ago. He gave strict written instructions. The box could only be opened in the presence of a judge or after his death. The manager inserted the first key. David placed my father's key into the second lock. Click. The heavy steel door opened. The room became completely silent. Inside the box, there wasn't any cash, no gold, no jewelry, only 3 things. A leather journal, a sealed envelope, and a small flash drive. Daniel laughed nervously. That's it? My father kept papers in here? David ignored him. He handed everything to the judge. The judge opened the envelope first. Across the front, Dad had written, "Read this before opening anything else." Mr. Harrison unfolded the letter. His voice echoed through the room. If you're reading this, and someone I loved has chosen greed over family. I felt tears forming. Even after his death, Dad somehow knew. The letter continued. Money has a strange way of revealing a person's true character. That's why I never trusted signatures alone. Daniel suddenly looked uncomfortable. Mr. Harrison continued reading. Everything inside this box has been copied and securely stored with my attorney. Daniel's eyes widened. What? Mr. Harrison looked directly at him. Yes. Nothing inside this box can disappear. The judge nodded. Continue. David picked up the leather journal. This was Robert's private diary. He slowly opened it. Every page was dated. Every major business decision, every family meeting, every financial transfer had been carefully recorded. Then, David stopped on one page. His expression changed. What is it? I asked. He silently handed the journal to the judge. The judge read one paragraph, then looked directly at Daniel. Mr. Carter, did you ask your father to transfer ownership of the company 2 years ago? Daniel hesitated. I don't remember, David quietly replied. Your father did? He pointed to the diary. Dad had written, Today Daniel asked me to sign over everything. When I refused, he became angry. If anything ever happens to me unexpectedly, this diary may explain why. The room froze. Daniel's breathing became heavier. Then came the flash drive. The judge handed it to the bank manager. A television screen in the conference room lit up. The video began playing. It was Dad, recorded just 6 months before he died. He looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm no longer here." He smiled sadly. "Emily, I know you've always cared more about family than money." I couldn't stop crying. Then Dad looked directly into the camera again. His expression became serious. "Daniel, if you're watching this because you forged my will or tried to steal from your sister, you should know I already expected it." Daniel jumped to his feet. "Turn it off!" "No," the judge answered firmly. "We're watching all of it." Dad continued. "The will anyone presents today isn't my final will. My real estate plan has always been held in trust. My attorney has the originals. Anyone presenting another version is committing fraud." Daniel's face turned pale. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the judge slowly closed the folder. He looked directly at Daniel. "Mr. Carter, I believe this hearing has become a criminal matter." Just then, the courtroom bailiff entered the room. He whispered something into the judge's ear. The judge nodded, then looked at Daniel. "Mr. Carter, the district attorney has requested your presence." Daniel looked at me, his eyes filled with fear. And for the first time, he whispered the words I never thought I'd hear. "Emily, please, help me." Daniel looked at me. His voice shook. "Emily, please, don't let them do this." For a moment, I saw the little boy who used to hold my hand on the first day of school. Not the man who had tried to steal everything. Just my brother. The judge remained silent. The district attorney stepped forward. "Mr. Daniel Carter, you'll have the opportunity to explain your actions, but the evidence speaks for itself." Daniel lowered his head. He knew there was no escaping the truth. A week later, the final inheritance hearing resumed. The courtroom was packed. Everyone wanted to know one thing. What had Robert Carter actually left behind? Mr. Harrison stood before the judge. "Your Honor, the fraudulent will has been declared invalid. The Carter Family Trust is now the only legally binding estate plan." He opened the original trust documents. "This estate will be divided exactly as Robert Carter instructed." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Mr. Harrison smiled gently. "The family home will belong to Emily." I gasped. I wrote this every night for the past 6 months. I wasn't brave enough to send it. I opened it. The first sentence made my eyes fill with tears. "I spent my whole life trying to inherit your house, when I should have been trying to inherit your kindness." I kept reading. "Dad spent his life building a home, and I nearly destroyed our family chasing money. If I never earn your trust again, I'll understand. But I promise I'll spend the rest of my life becoming the son you deserved." I looked at Daniel. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't asking for the house. He wasn't asking for the company. He was asking for another chance. I stood up, walked toward him, and hugged him. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I whispered, "I forgive you." He began crying. "I'm so sorry, Mom." I gently pulled back and looked him in the eyes. "Forgiveness is free, but trust has to be earned." He nodded. "I know, and I'll earn it." A year later, our family looked very different. Daniel never asked for ownership of the house again. Instead, every Saturday morning, he came over with coffee. He repaired the fence, trimmed the garden, painted the porch. Not because anyone told him to. Because he finally understood. A home isn't something you own. It's something you care for. Above the fireplace, I framed one sentence from my late husband's final letter. "The richest people aren't the ones who own the most. They're the ones who never lose their character." Every time Daniel walked into the living room, he stopped and read those words. Not because he had to. Because they reminded him of the greatest lesson of his life. He had forced his own mother out of her home. He thought he had won. But in the end, he discovered the most valuable things in life can never be stolen.